In this video, we're going to compare the 50mm G-Master f1.2, which was released in 2021, to the newer 50mm G-Master f1.4, which was released this year. I honestly thought that comparing these two lenses would be very easy. I was thinking to myself that probably they have the same internal and external design, and the only difference would be the aperture being slightly smaller on the newer G-Master. But I was wrong. The internal design is different on the new G-Master. It has an additional feature on the body, and it has a smaller aperture. So let's go ahead and compare them to one another in this video. Okay, in terms of build quality, they have the same build quality we're familiar with, though the 1.4 is made in China, whereas the 1.2 is made in Thailand. Now, whether that makes any difference, I don't know. The exterior design is the same like on most G-Master lenses. They both have an aperture ring, a focus ring, two function buttons. The 1.4, however, has an extra switch which I have not seen on a G-Master prime lens before, called Iris Lock. This feature allows you to lock your aperture on A, and controlling the aperture can be done from the dial on the camera. In terms of size, you can see for yourself there's a big difference between them, as well as weight. The 1.2 weighs 778 grams or 27.5 ounces. And the 1.4 is so compact, it looks about the same size as my 24mm G-Master, and it weighs 516 grams or 18.3 ounces. Okay, they both have 11 aperture blades, and the minimum focus distance is close but not the same. The 1.2 has a minimum focus distance of 0.4 meters or 1.23 feet. The 1.4 has a minimum focus distance of 0.1 meters or 1.35 feet. The 1.2 has a filter thread of 72mm, and f1.4 has a filter thread size of 67mm, just like on the 20, 24 and 35mm G-Master. And when it comes to sharpness, both of them are extremely sharp, and I found it so hard telling them apart. They're so close in terms of sharpness. Here are two pictures taken at f1.4 handheld using autofocus and using a fast shutter speed. In this example, the f1.2 does look to have a bit more detail. Okay, in this next example, they were taken from a tripod using timer and manual focusing as accurately as possible. And again, the same, the f1.2 is a hair sharper in the center, whereas in the corner there are a few differences depending on where you zoom, which sort of matches with these curves on the MFTs provided by Sony. So in essence, the 1.2 is a hair more detailed, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a win because the difference is minimum. They look almost the same. Now, speaking of MFT, dead center, the f1.2 looks to be rendering better when wide open for radial details, also known as sagittal according to the MFT, and render tangential, also known as meridional details, almost the same as the f1.4, although the 1.2 has a weak spot between 12 to 18mm from the center. At f8, the 1.2 has better sharpness. Contrast looks to be the same, with a slight drop on the f1.2 when wide open after 16mm from the center. Closing the aperture to f8, the f1.2 has better overall sharpness and contrast, but not by much. Again, these are slight differences, so no matter which one you choose, you will not be disappointed in terms of sharpness and contrast. So lateral chromatic aberration is maybe a touch better on the f1.2 from what I can tell by looking at these two images. Both of these images were taken at f1.4, and looking at the image on the right, which is the G-Master f1.4, it has a bit more green fringing, as we can see on the edge of the lamp in the center a little bit and at the top. They're not that much different. They're super close, but the f1.2 has a bit less. As for axial chromatic aberration or Bokeh, they're about the same, and they have very, very little, as you can see in these sample videos. Next is distortion, and they both have some pincushion distortion. The 1.4 has a bit more than the f1.2, as you can see in these two examples. When it comes to vignetting, again, they're close, but not 100% the same. The f1.2 has a tiny little bit more vignetting than the f1.4. Okay, looking at flare and ghosting. In this test, the winner was the f1.2. It almost has no flare at all. Closing down the aperture showed the tiniest lens flare while pointing at the sun. The f1.4 had more pronounced lens flare, showing pretty much regardless of the aperture. It wasn't really bad, but it did a little bit worse than the f1.2. Okay, next we're gonna look at the autofocus. So when it comes to the autofocus, the 1.2 should perform better because it has 4 XD linear motors and the 1.4 has only 2. The autofocus in photography is fast, consistent and reliable on both lenses. And there wasn't any difference between them. However, I think the f1.2 has the potential to be faster if you're shooting like fast moving subjects and you have a faster autofocusing camera. For the video test, I recorded the videos on both lenses during golden hour, and I think that was a bit difficult for both of them. So overall they did a good job and mostly they were the same, but as my daughter was walking out of the shade and into the sunlight, the video was a bit overexposed, and I think that made it a bit more difficult for the lenses and the camera to pick up the face. And I did notice a difference between them. The 1.4 lost the face a couple of times and there was also some pulsing in the background, but that was on both lenses. So overall they did really good, and probably in a better lighting situation and shooting with a different camera would have produced different results, but for the most part they were similar. Focus breathing is heavy on both and it looks to be more or less the same. And now if you're thinking that focus breathing compensation on your Sony cameras will rid of this problem, yeah it will, but it will crop into the image to do so. When it comes to bokeh, there is a difference between them obviously, even though the gap between them is just 1/3 of a stop. So looking at these two images, we can see that both have a beautiful bokeh, a bit more pronounced on the f1.2 obviously, but beautiful on both. The bokeh balls are a bit cat-eye shaped in the corners on the f1.2 more than they are on the f1.4, but other than that they both have beautiful bokeh. And I've noticed a difference between them in terms of angle of view. Excuse me. The f1.2 is either a touch narrower or the f1.4 is a bit wider, because there is a slight difference between them. The other thing I noticed when looking at the bokeh balls on the f1.4, they have these onion rings character to them, which are not very prominent, but on the f1.2 there are none. The bokeh is clean. This is something caused by lens polishing, which I have not seen for a long time on Sony lenses, and from what I know they don't have any effect on your images other than making the bokeh balls look layered. This is an example of rough glass under the microscope. This photo covers an area of about 20 micrometers. Now on the manual focus side of things, they're both linear and the ring has a good dampening on both of them, but it's not stiff. Okay, now looking at the price, in the UK the prices are $1,500 for the f1.4 and $2,100 for the f1.2. The f1.2 is 40% more expensive than the f1.4. Now is the f1.2 40% better than the f1.4? No, it is not. There may be some slight differences between them, but the f1.2 is not 40% better than the f1.4. You may get more glass for the extra money because it's 50% heavier, but not that much better. Now that being said, those differences can be important for those who are earning a living from content creating, and the extra cost is not an issue. I think the 1.2 is more suitable for those who do photography, and being heavier is not necessarily an issue, especially if you don't carry it on a gimbal. And the 1.4 is better suited for those who do video work, because video comes with heavier setups and being more lightweight can be a lifesaver. So whichever one you choose will not be a bad choice. It's really down to what you need. But if you're on a tight budget, going for the 1.4 makes more sense. By the way, although the f1.4 is an amazing lens, it's not the best lens Sony has ever made, like some people claim on YouTube. That's just hype. It's a practical lens because of its size, but as you have seen, the 1.2 did better in some aspects. So that is it. Hopefully this video can help you decide which one is for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care now.